You know, Doug, I think people have got to understand, you and I have lived under a cloud of lies, allegations, and I want to give some legal terms to some people. We have had affidavits filed against us in a lawsuit we're filing, which is a spurious. It has no legal merit, but we're in the six figures, ladies and gentlemen, and we're willing to fight for you, not just ourselves, because I want people to put, before I even begin going 100 miles an hour, I want people to understand something. I want you, everyone who has ever been blessed by hearing me any place, by hearing Doug any place, and hear from Tom Horn, all the amazing guests, Peer Pastor Langford, I want you to ask yourself, where will you go for the continual nourishment that God in His mercy has provided? Now, look, I don't care if people say I'm bat manure crazy. I don't care what they say, and obviously I know everybody's not going to love me, but when they accuse Doug and I of money laundering, that is libel per se, okay? And libel per se is anything that charges any person with a crime or with having been indicted, convicted, or punished for a crime. We have not been. When somebody accuses you in an affidavit in court, and another person has an affidavit making her claims that I was taking advantage of a bipolar woman and that I cheated her when she bought silver and got mad when it went down and claimed that it was because she listened to BG, the guerrilla economist, talking to Doug and I. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, BG didn't come on until a year after she bought her silver. That woman filed an affidavit with both the state of Michigan and Montana. They said, you have no legal merit. There's nothing to the case. She then went on to, in her own words, I think, Doug, what are there, at least 12 to 18 references where she claims after the fact that she basically was crazy, that her kids, here's a direct quote. Mom, I'm not going to name her, it's a matter of public record. Mom, I'm very concerned with your mental health. You are not yourself and are exhibiting many of the classic symptoms of a manic episode. I mean this with utter sincerity. Please go to the hospital and get help. That's the woman that said I was, dishonest and I stole from her. She got everything she wanted. She got everything she agreed to. She had buyer's remorse, and I went from being her favorite person on the planet. Ladies and gentlemen, when Doug said we have assembled and continue to assemble a team of legal experts, we have voluminous amounts of documentation. And some of you people that hang out on whatever boards, the boards that proscribe us, or the boards that, people aren't allowed to mention us openly, but they do in their bomb shelter and stuff, all of those are memorialized also. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're not just fighting for us, we're fighting for you. And the legal team we've got is one of the best in the country, and they're going to be expensive. It's going to cost us high in the six figures. But what we've been able to do is piece this whole thing together. And look, that's nothing compared to what the left has. So I want you to understand something, that they have tried their best to trade libel. Trade libel is defamation against the goods or services of a company or business. They've done it to Doug. They've done it to me. There are people that go on bulletin boards and forums, etc., and just continue to parrot false claims. Even a guy that was a radio host wanted to get a class action suit against me. Guess what? He ended up in jail, and he's not off the hook. Another individual who basically made public claims, and it's memorialized, that I sold fake bullion. He then retracted it. That's a crime, ladies and gentlemen. That is not only liable, it's injurious, but it's also a crime. So what Doug and I are having to do, obviously, is that all talk radio is under attack with the demonetization by YouTube, with the demonetization of advertising, with advertisers pulling away. We have to appeal to those of you who can afford to help us. And I'm saying that for the legal challenge we're going to make. When I say we've got some of the brightest legal minds in the world, we've got a guy who started a law school, wrote the law book, and is respected in the country. He's a constitutional authority. Now, this guy, these guys have, the firm has taken stuff to the Supreme Court. But because a group of people who started coming against Doug and I that we basically responded, us in hyperbole. The thing is that we've been forced to fight a 30-month battle against people who have libeled us, who have slandered us, who have defamed us, who have been involved in tortious interference in our businesses, who have done their best to get, literally thousands of pages on the Internet. One lies, another one swears to it, and everybody says, yep, we told you these guys were that. We've had enough. We kept silent. Obviously, our case is in court, but I want to share something. It doesn't matter if you live in Taiwan. It doesn't matter if you have a dual citizenship, Mexico, the United States. It doesn't matter if you live in Mississippi. It doesn't matter if you live in Canada. It doesn't matter if you live in Alabama or Georgia or any place else. We are absolutely putting you on notice. You will get to write the checks for your defense. And you can't say, well, nana. There's also liable per se. There's a false light claim. When you take something as factual that is knowingly not true, and you go out and blab it while you're knitting your, your blanket or your whatever they call it, shawls or whatever, and you can just bet on it that you can't claim, well, I didn't know any better. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just this. They're trying to shut Alex up. Remember this, when the most powerful people in the world want you dead, you're over target. And little by little, we're being picked off. So it's not just Doug and me fighting a lawsuit. It is absolutely the lawsuit. It is a bigger picture. The bigger picture is, again, and Doug, I don't know how to say this any more clearly, the bigger picture is, can you ultimately face the fact, and it will come, just as if Trump was an intermission, and I believe he was. Doug, people get more mad at that than they want nuclear war. And there's a scripture that says, woe unto you who long for the day of the Lord. For it's a day of darkness, it's a day of dread. There are people that just want to see everybody die, but those people that want to see everybody die don't understand the horrors, and that type of an attitude is not a one-way ticket into paradise, okay? God says he takes no pleasure in the death of the wicked. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm asking those of you, you have everything to lose. You have your inheritance to lose. You have your children, grandchildren. And we're not just fighting. In essence, we're on the wall tonight. Whereas Nehemiah, we've got the sand ballots. We've got the people that are mocking us, ridiculing us, trying to take us down by every lie, every false witness they can. And by the way, it is illegal to file a complaint or file an affidavit knowingly not true, and then basically pleading that it is true. You're swearing to a known fact when there's no factual basis for it. And for the record, ladies and gentlemen, one of the men filing a false affidavit was singing these kudos to me. So isn't it interesting? Best friends turned on each other. So here's where we're at tonight. We need your help. I don't care, what you've been in life. Hey, the thing is, you either stand with us, and God will, God is ultimately standing with us. So everybody that is an intercessor for us, thank you. But I'm asking for the people that have some funds available. This isn't for Doug or me. It'll go directly into the legal trust fund we've set up to fight this, because we're fighting a bigger picture. We're fighting a picture for truth. We're taking on the battle. And I will tell you this, and this is as blunt as I know how to be, and I guess I've accomplished that in decades on the radio. If it hadn't been for Doug's encouragement at times, I would have pulled the plug. If it hadn't been for Hawk's encouragement, God bless you, Hawk, I would have pulled the plug. I got so fed up, and I remember Derek Prince said, life will either make you bitter or better. Well, I went to the bitter realm for a while, and then I got on my face and repented, and I said, God, you've got to help me to love these people who have made themselves my enemies, because I don't. And I pray that way, ladies and gentlemen. I don't just, say that. and there's only been one case, and I prayed it on the air for one individual, and to my knowledge, it's the only time I've ever turned someone over to Satan for the destruction of the flesh, and that literally, God will deal with him in such a, he's the one that mocked me putting my face on Jesus. He said, when I pray on the radio for you, God puts his fingers in his ears and goes, blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm sure that he has his love for me, but the contempt he showed for the Son of God, and he claims to be a Christian. By the way, Doug and I will tell you this. We have in our possession claims that the three antagonists have made to us about, quote, them being demons possessed, the woman that accused me of stealing from her and has signed an affidavit. I have over 18 statements, they weren't private or privileged, where she said she cast demons out of herself. It's crazy. She just as soon commit suicide 1 minute, and then she isn't the next. And then we've got the one who basically claims that, demons appear to him in his basement. And, so here's what we're dealing with. This is a spiritual attack. And, Doug, I don't know how to articulate that the spiritual affects the physical realm. And, ladies and gentlemen, will those of you who are capable, you know what your finances are, will you help